All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Jets Afterburners Podcast. I am your host, Liam, and I am being joined by a very special guest tonight. I have been trying to get this guy for years. I follow all of his content. He is one of the best Jet content creators on YouTube. Ian from Jet Central. Ian, what's going on, my friend?
Liam, what's up, dude? So glad to be here.
Yeah, man. So we got a ton to get into. The New York Jets, you know, it's funny because they represent New York, the city that never sleeps. This is really the team that never sleeps. Joe Douglas is famous for just making these moves out of nowhere. And that's kind of what we did today. The New York Jets have signed a running back today. If you were going to tell me that the Jets signed a free agent, I didn't think running back. That's not where my head would have immediately went to. But they did sign Tyreek Cohen, a former all-pro return specialist. He's had a kind of a crazy career, just riddled by injuries, really unfortunate. What are your thoughts on him, and what does this mean for the running back room?
Yeah, man. I'm right there with you. Like, I couldn't see this coming. Right. I felt like if the Jets signed a free agent, it would have been like an offensive lineman, a safety or something like that. But we're adding a fifth running back to the room, right?
Yeah.
But I think, after watching the Saleh press conference, I mean, it didn't really take the Saleh press conference to put two and two together, but special teams is really the driving force really behind the signing. What can he do there with the new kickoff rule? It's going to impact so many different games this season. There's going to be crazy games that are decided by this new kickoff rule. And, on one hand, I'm pumped that the Jets are trying to get ahead of it, right, by adding an explosive playmaker. But then on the other hand, it's like, man, we our financial resources are finite here. Is it really necessary to add a fifth RB to the room? So, it should be definitely an interesting storyline to follow.
Yeah. Do you see a situation now where maybe Izzy's on the bubble, or maybe one of these guys that they drafted?
Definitely not Braylon Allen or Isaiah Davis, because you just don't cut you just don't cut draft picks, right? Especially in their first year. Brees obviously is Brees, but yeah, Izzy is the interesting one. I like him. I still think he has an upside, and I would be surprised if Joe Douglas gave up on him super quickly. But then again, he did give up on Michael Carter really quick. So right. You're reading the stuff that's coming out of Arizona, and Cardinals fans really like Michael Carter. The coaching staff really likes Michael Carter. So it goes to show that, just if you don't make it with your first squad and you end up getting released, or you get traded or something like that, it doesn't mean that you're a finished product.
Yeah, definitely. I like the move. I mean, like I said, it's not like the first move that I would have thought especially at the running back position, but I mean, we did sign him. I can't see a situation where Izzy is on the bubble, unfortunately. I like him too, but he was pretty raw last year, and I'm sure that they're going to give him a couple preseason games, see if he's developed, and just watching him in training camp and see what goes on from there. And you could only hope that if that is the situation, that he could bounce back similar to a Michael Carter and definitely get picked up on a different team. Now, moving to the offensive line a little bit, I'm hearing a lot of reports about Olu and Carter Warren. They're sitting there talking with the veterans such as Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith. What are your thoughts on this revamped offensive line? Just when Joe Douglas first got here, he said that was going to be a priority, to fix the offensive line. And it hasn't always worked out, but to his credit, he has tried. I mean, he's invested some first round draft picks such as Mekhi Becton. He's brought in a ton of free agents, Dwayne Brown, just to name a couple. In my opinion, I feel like we got the offensive line right. I mean, it's only on paper. And Tyron Smith, he's infamous for not playing a full season. But then again, we have a first round stud offensive lineman just waiting behind him. So it's a situation where if Tyron Smith plays a full season, that's great because we're getting one of the greatest offensive linemen to play a full season for us. If not, we have a first round draft pick that we could finally sit back and develop the right way. When's the last time that we were able to bench a excuse me, a first round draft pick and develop him the right way? So what are your thoughts on this revamped offensive line overall?
Yeah, I mean, like you touched on it, like on paper, I think it's so much better, right? Compared to last season and even the season before that. I mean, really, since Joe Douglas has gotten here, the offensive line has just been in shambles, right? You're seeing Zach Wilson miss time every year. You're seeing Sam Darnold miss time every year. These guys are getting sacked a ton. They're getting beat up. You can talk about the running backs, right? Also not having holes to run through, never really being able to establish a consistent running game. But again, on paper, I think this thing is rock solid. I think our starters are improved, our backups are improved, which is awesome. I think health is that's just the thing that's so tough, right? Because you can't control health. You can do some things to help like mitigate it, right?
Right.
Like take precautions and give certain guys specific workloads and whatnot, giving necessary rest where it's due. But I think with a lot of these free agent acquisitions, if you talk to fans of other teams, they'll sit there and say the same thing, like, "Oh yeah, the Jets got some big names: Tyron Smith, Mike Williams, Morgan Moses." But the problem with this football team a year ago was everybody is you are investing in this team that's always getting hurt with
Yeah.
guys that always get hurt in Tyron Moses and whatnot, which, you know, as a Jet fan, it is tough to hear that. At the same time, it is right. I hate to admit it when I'm talking. Like, I have a buddy who's a Saints fan. My brother's a Bills fan. And they're always saying the same thing. Like, Mike Williams, dude, like, yeah, he's good when he's on the field. Morgan Moses missed time last year. Tyron Smith missed time last year. But Olu is probably the number one guy I'm most excited about. And Tippmann as well. I think T coming back is going to be huge. But again, that it's another guy, two season-ending injuries.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like going into last year, it was a lot of what ifs. What if Dwayne
Mhm.
Brown comes back and he's healthy? What if he's not healthy? Same thing with Mekhi Becton. Elijah Vera Tucker was coming off of injury. What is Billy Turner? It seemed like we had a lot more questions than answers. So I feel like right now, even with our backups, like I feel pretty confident in them compared to like some of the backups that we've had last year. So do you see a situation where these players, like maybe some of these depth pieces, if they're forced to start outside of Olu, of course, because I think we all have high expectations for Olu. Do you have high expectations for the rest of the depth players if they, God forbid, need to play?
I think Carter Warren is probably one of the more intriguing options. I think we know what Wes Schweitzer is at this point in time. Yeah, Paul Boy Green.
What's up,
Um,
Boy Green?
but I mean, I would be lying if I said, yeah, I feel like I'm looking at the depth options and I'm saying, yeah, that's an A+ room. But then
Right.
again, you can push back and say, all right, well, what NFL team out there has a great starting lineup and then a great depth option at every single position. It's just not really too realistic, especially if you have studs at other positions like Hassan Reddick and other big name free agents that the Jets have brought in. Quinnen is making a ton,
Yep.
so I think Douglas did the best that he could. Simpson
Yeah.
at left guard. He's brought in some depth options. Like you said, dude, Olu, I think is probably, I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, right? But I think right now he's probably the best backup left tackle in football. I think he could, I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing at some point this season, specifically in like that midway, 75% way through the season. Um, if Tyron Smith gets hurt. But yeah, no, I feel good about it. Not perfect, but feel good.
Right, and with backups, that's really all you can expect. I mean, I don't think that we're expecting, one of these backups to go out there and be like a Tyron Smith, although that would be great, but I don't see that being the situation. Now, with the offensive line, just sticking with this for another second here, do you see them adding another veteran, maybe like a David Bakhtiari or somebody like that?
It's a great question. I think for me, I don't want to rule it out. I mean, like I said, dude, like I didn't see the Tariq Cohen news at all. Like yesterday, if you would have asked me, like, hey, are the Jets going to add another running back? I would have said, like, no, we already have 4 young ones on the roster.
Yeah, like, what are you
And
out
then
of your
we go
mind?
yeah, yeah. And then we go ahead and we do it today. So I think everything is on the table for JD.
Yeah, now today in OTAs, Malachi Corley walked off with the trainer, and then he was seen limping a little afterwards, and nothing too serious. I don't think it was any type of serious injury, but it did kind of give me those flashbacks and a little bit of that PTSD. Oh no, like it's starting already. Here we go again. The New York Jets with another injury. Now, I'm not saying that Malachi Corley is going to have this huge breakout season, although that would be great. But do you see them maybe adding another wide receiver? Because the way it's looking right now, Mike Williams not healthy. Alan Lazard, it looks like he had a really rough day in OTAs. Do you see them maybe bringing in like a Hunter Renfro or somebody like that?
Only if these guys struggle during training camp, or they can get a really good deal, somewhere. But I think they're going to roll into training camp at least like late July with the same group and just kind of see how it goes. But if Lazard is still struggling, if Williams is still not healthy, I think then we could see somebody get added to the room.
Yeah. Do you see a situation where, I mean, I know like obviously what you had just said, but do you see a situation where maybe Corey Davis comes back, or do you think he's 100% gone? He's been an interesting one. I mean, I know apparently he wants to go back to Tennessee, which some people feel like, yeah, like he has every right to, but then like there's some Jet fans out there like, we gave him what he wanted when he wanted to retire right ahead of a season. We honored that. He should come back and honor us. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I like Corey. I just don't know if he's like a massive game changer.
I don't
I
think
think,
so either.
yeah, like adding him to the room would be great for the team, but as far as him, like, if news breaks tomorrow that the Jets signed Corey Davis, of course, a lot of people are going to be happy. But at the same time, it's like I don't think that's really going to add 2, 3, 4 wins to our schedule, right? It's not like we're
Yeah.
adding a top 20 receiver in football. Unfortunately, again, I like
Yeah.
Corey, but in both seasons, I think he had under 50 catches for the Jets. While he was here, didn't have it in 1,000-yard season. I see him probably as the fourth option. So for me, I think I would probably just rather give those reps to Jason Brownlee.
Yeah, no, I would too, 100%. What are your thoughts on Alan Lazard? Do you think that he's actually going to have a breakout season? From all reports, it looks like he's being like one of the first into like some of the training rooms. He's giving his insight in meetings, in the classroom. Do you think that he's actually going to have a bounce back season? Do you think maybe it was just like a, hey, listen, last year sucked. I realized that. Like I was crucified on Jets Twitter, Instagram, all social media platforms all throughout the season in going into the offseason. Do you see like him bouncing back, and like what do you think a bounce back would look like for Alan Lazard?
It's tough to project because it's like you don't even really know what went wrong with Lazard last year,
Right.
and again, when he was brought in, nobody was just like, oh my God, the Jets landed Devontae Adams or Jamar Chase. It was like, okay, a solid, starting wideout who knows Hackett, knows the system, knows Rodgers, um, knows Billy Turner and Tim Boyle, all these other Packers. But I mean, man, to look at the Jets wide receiving room a year ago, to look at how bad the offense was from start to finish and say, you know what, Lazard's going to be a healthy scratch in multiple weeks. That I think says something like big picture, macro perspective, one of the worst offenses, one of the worst wide receiving cores, just names on paper a year ago, and you can't even crack the lineup. So I don't know if it was drops in practice. I don't know if it was an attitude thing. I don't know if it was him as a teammate. I have no idea what
Right.
because if he's good enough to suit up for Green Bay and be a key contributor every single year and get better every single year, but then he comes to a much worse situation with, again, talent in the wideout room, and he can't even dress on game day, it's tough to just kind of project like, oh yeah, he's gonna bounce back for sure, or what to expect. I would like to think that whoever Rodgers is throwing to, the numbers will go up. So I guess in theory, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously Aaron Rodgers trusts him. That trust factor is there. And it's not like kind of like you said, it's not like a situation where like we got like one of these big like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, like we got like one of these huge names, and they went from having 1,000+ yards to 600-700 yards. It was like you had said, like he wasn't a number one wide receiver. Like he was a depth piece, and he was getting passed on the roster by guys like Cobb and like some of these guys. So I think it was really concerning, and considering the relationship that he has with Hackett, that he couldn't even get on the field for multiple weeks. It wasn't just like, oh, we're going to bench you from 1 week, hope that maybe you learn your lesson a little bit. This was a multiple week thing. I think it was about a month span where he couldn't get on the field. And it just seems like his progression has gotten worse throughout the season. He started off like decent. I don't really remember seeing him too much in that Buffalo game week 1. But then, like, I remember he had that really awesome touchdown. I believe it was a touchdown or the 53-yard pass in the Chiefs game. So there's been
Yeah.
times where he had flashed, and that was kind of what excuse me, my voice is getting all weird here. There was that was kind of like the thing with him. It was that he's going to miss some of the easy throws, like some of those wide open passes he's going to drop. But some of those spectacular ones, where he's going to fully extend his body, he's going to wow you with some throws. And I don't feel like we got any of that player last year. So I'm really hoping that Aaron Rodgers can elevate his game, because they say that high tides rise all ships. So you could hope that Aaron Rodgers could take somebody like an Allen Lazard to continue to elevate his game.
Mm.
Now, speaking on the quarterback position, we have 3 quarterbacks in the room as it stands right now: Aaron Rodgers, Tyrod Taylor, and then, of course, the rookie Jordan Travis. Do you see a situation now? Obviously, knock on wood, I don't even want to talk about injuries, but if an injury were to occur, Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, that seems to be like the big verdict on him. He cannot come back. He cannot be fine. He's 40. He's going to be 41 years old coming off an Achilles. Nobody could do that. Aaron Rodgers isn't normal. That's all I'm going to say about that. But Tyrod Taylor also has an injury history. Now, obviously, if your starting quarterback and your backup go down, your season's cooked. There's really not a whole lot you could do about that. Do you see a situation where maybe they do bring in another quarterback, maybe like a Trevor Siemian or a Brett Rippon, somebody that was here last year that knew the offense? Not saying Tim Boyle. I don't think Tim Boyle's. I think he was actually the rat that they were talking about last
Mm.
year. But to truly redshirt at quarterback, something that we really haven't been able to do since Chad Pennington over 20 years ago. Do you see a situation where maybe at least for the first couple weeks of the season they bring in somebody, or do you think that they're just going to roll with what they have?
I think they'll just roll with what they have. Again, like if you're talking about like a win now team, to me, I kind of want to have breathing room at the trade deadline. If we do want to make a move, I would much rather add to the safety room, or to the wide receiver room if these guys don't, if Williams isn't healthy, or if Lazard continues to struggle.
Yeah.
What happens if an offensive lineman gets hurt? So I don't think adding a guy right now, but if Aaron gets hurt or if Tyrod gets hurt as the backup option, then 100% like a move needs to be made the next day, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would even be cool if they could somehow manage to stash one of those quarterbacks on the practice squad. I don't know how feasible that would be. Like, if you just have like a Trevor Siemian sitting out there, and there's a team that's decimated with injuries, similar to the New York Jets, I could see them making a move. But and
Mm.
like you said, I do want that breathing room come the trade deadline. Possibly if maybe a certain Las Vegas Raiders team isn't doing so great, you could bring somebody in. I'm just talking. You never know. Maybe a certain 17 will be coming along at the
Mm.
trade deadline, possibly, if he's unhappy. But I just don't want to go into this season saying like, damn it. Like, I wish we had like one more quarterback. I wish we had one more wide receiver. Like, I don't want to be decimated at any position. So
Yeah, yeah, and I'll say this: good teams find a way. I mean, of course, if Rodgers gets hurt like a year ago, everything kind of went, fell apart. But again, good teams find a way, right? The Chiefs have had like the Chiefs like best receiver on the team is just like, an average player. And they're the Super Bowl champs, 49ers, they deal with injuries. They have guys to replace them. Buffalo, they have, or had like a ton of veterans miss time. Matt Milano, Trey White. They got guys to step in, third round picks, random guys, and they figure it out and move forward. Teams that have great coaching staffs. Um, we even saw like Cincinnati, they lose freaking Joe Burrow and they're still competitive. They're still winning games. Cleveland made the playoffs last year with 4 different QBs, one of which was ex-Jet Joe Flacco, right? As we all know. So, again, I think good teams find a way to navigate through adversity. So we can't just let one injury or, one positional group just derail the whole season. Like you just got to work with it or work around it.
I agree 100% with that. And unfortunately, it's just like they haven't done that. It seems like they suffer like one decent sized injury and they're like, all right, well, there's always next
Yeah.
year. And I don't want like this is supposed to be your going all in Super Bowl window. That's unacceptable. I thought it was unacceptable last year too. And I'm not trying to get super negative here either, but I get it. Like maybe like Salah's hands were tied. There's been a couple rumors that Woody Johnson didn't want to pay for another quarterback, but it's just you can't have that this year. You really can't, like you said, you got to find a way to work around an injury. You got to just adapt and, change up your system if you have to fit whatever quarterback is under center. Now, let's hope. Let's just hope and pray that it is Aaron Rodgers for a full season. Or at least if there is something, it's not like a major injury where he's out for the rest of the season. Because I really want to see number 8, as do you, as does every other Jet fan, as is really anybody that watches football. Whether you love Aaron, you hate him, you love the Jets, you hate the Jets. You want to see this team with Aaron Rodgers to either see it succeed, and you got some fans out there, or just of the NFL, just yeah, I like the Jets. Like that's kind of how I felt about the Lions last year. Like I wanted to see them once the Jets were out. I'm like, you know what, let's see the Lions go all the way. But then you got some fans out there like I really hope that this crashes and burns, with Aaron Rodgers. So either way, with all of these primetime games, we're going to be seeing a ton of the New York Jets. Do you see them being like flexed into any games? If like obviously if they're good, they will be. But we're gonna get into the schedule a little bit later on anyway. But getting into the tight end position a little bit, just sticking with offense here. Aaron Rodgers a couple weeks ago, probably about a month ago at this time, said he spoke very highly of Zach Kuntz. Do you see a situation that this year Zach Kuntz makes the 53? And do you also see maybe not both, but one or the other, Kenny Yeboah as well?
It's tough. I just kind of view those guys as practice squad players at this point, just because we have other positions that I think take priority. Like number one, we were talking about it before, running backs, right? We have 5 right now. Are 5 running actually going to dress on Sunday? No, probably not.
No.
But still, we can maybe see 4. And if there's 4 running backs dressing, that's typically 1 less at a position somewhere else on the team. So would that potentially be the third tight end? Like that's where they make up the difference? Possibly. I think the new kickoff rule is going to be super, super important. You can't just say like, oh, I got a special teamer, we'll just throw them out there. Like I think there has to be a really like dialed in approach when it comes to Brant Boyer's, outlook on special teams and how he's going to attack this kickoff unit, and every single player needs to be accounted for. So I and plus these guys are still young enough to where you can stash them on the practice squad. So I think if anything, they'll get like a lot of opportunities in preseason.
Yeah, similar to last year, especially with Kuntz. Now, sticking with the tight ends for a minute here, I am a really big fan of Tyler Conklin. I mean, he went from being Stonehand's Zach's rookie year, and a lot of people were down on him. He had a lot of drops. And this guy has, like, almost secretly, like, a lot of people, like, don't really notice the improvement that he's made. I think, like, these last couple of years, he's gotten better each and every year. And if you look at his numbers, like, I don't have his numbers pulled in front of me, but they're not bad numbers at all. Do you see
No,
like a situation where he's going to have finally a breakout season? And then do you think the same with Jeremy Ruckert, where like his rookie year, he missed some training camp, he dealt with the injuries, and then he's kind of been used as like a blocking tight end more. And now there's like all these reports with that he might become like the fullback a little bit here. Do you see a situation where he's going to be able to like go catch some balls and like kind of be like that Ohio State Jeremy Ruckert, where like he was like impacting the game, catching passes, scoring touchdowns, finally getting one. He's never had a touchdown with the Jets. So do you see a situation where both of these tight end 1 and tight end 2 have a breakout season with somebody like an Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Conklin's numbers, like you were saying, like I think he had over 700 receiving yards last year with horrible play caller, horrible O line, and Zach Wilson throwing the football. Is it fair to say like with a better O line and Rodgers throwing him the football, he can get 850? I think that's fair. So, and in regards to Ruckert, he's hanging on. He's still on the team, and it seems like the Jets coaching staff really likes him. So, I think he's going to have an increased role, for this year too.
Now, Robert Saleh in his press conference recently said that he's going to be getting more involved, more hands-on with the offense.
Mm.
What do you think a Robert Saleh infused offense is going to look like? Do you see like any like big changes coming that we didn't see last year? Or what do you
Nah,
think this means?
unfortunately not, because I think the first question that I had when, Rodgers first said that was, well, where was this in the first 3 years of his career? Because it's not like we had a great high flying offense when he first arrived. It wasn't like that in year two. And obviously last year it got worse in so many different metrics. Where was this offensive input then? You can make an argument. All right, well, maybe he spent the offseason learning and meeting with guys and, meeting with different coaches and learning, which is fantastic. Maybe that took place, but at this point, we don't know if that is true or not. I think Solid touched on it. He said that all he's really doing is just giving a defensive minded guys or coaches input on how a defense is going to attack what he's seeing from an offensive, from his own offense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think also back in college, he played tight end. So he does have a little bit of offensive experience. I mean, granted, that was years ago, but I am interested to see if there is any type of like big change. Now, like the same thing could be said with Nathaniel Hackett, where this man was, ridiculed. I wanted him fired personally at the end of the season. I just wanted like a different voice in there, but apparently he can make a nice cup of coffee for Aaron Rodgers, and that's all that we really need him to do. Do you
Right.
see do you see Nathaniel Hackett changing any of his play calling, like something that like he's kind of known for? Do you see him switching it up at all, or do you think this is all going to be Aaron Rodgers just changing the play at the line?
I think they'll be a lot better in the running game. I just don't see, first of all, the O line's better. But second of all, I don't see Joe Douglas drafting two running backs, drafting one last year, drafting Brees Hall originally, signing Tariq Cohen, right? I don't see us adding all these running backs and all these run tough tougher run blocking offensive linemen to throw the ball 45 times a game. I just don't want to see Rodgers at 40 dropping back on the MetLife turf, coming off the Achilles 40, 43, 45 times a game. I would rather rely on the running game, eat clock. So I think that will be the number one change is get back to the ground game. Feed the young running backs with a lot of tread on their tires.
Yeah, I would love to see that too. Like I'm not really obviously like a high flying offense is fun to watch, where Aaron Rodgers is throwing Hail Marys and 40-yard deep balls to Garrett Wilson. Like that'd be awesome. That'd be fun. And I'm sure we're gonna get like that's gonna be sprinkled into this offense, just knowing how Aaron Rodgers likes to operate. But yeah, no, I'm 100% cool with just playing some boring football, just handing the ball off and having Brees have like some of those breakout runs where because he's gonna have that 50-yard touchdown like he does every year. And then, like you said, I'm excited to see like somebody like Allen too, where he's like a bowling ball. So what I like about these running backs, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know a ton about Cohen because I don't. And, I know about his injury history. I know he was with the Bears. Like I get the basics down, but like I'm no pro expert on this guy. But I like that they kind of all bring something similar to something different, I'm sorry, to the offense. Do you see a situation where I'm hearing a lot about Allen being like that bowling ball, just get you a couple yards. Do you think that he's going to be the running back too? Or like if you had to pick, like if you had to assume what the
Yeah.
depth chart was right now, what do you think the depth chart with the running backs would be?
I would say Brees 1, Allen 2, and then Izzy and Davis
Okay.
as a situational type of back.
Yeah, definitely. So getting into the defensive side of the ball for a little bit here. I see, like the whole JFM thing bothers me. It really does. And I get it. I get the whole salary dump thing. And if there was one player on that defensive line that you would have to move on from, I would probably say JFM. But with the
Mhm.
loss of JFM, Al Woods, Jefferson, I mean, they were replaced with Leaky Fatu. They were replaced with Kinlaw. You have Solomon Thomas still. Do you see, in your opinion, did the defensive line get worse? Just, I mean, like it's hard to tell because we haven't seen these guys play any games. But like on paper, do you think it's a worse group the way that it's constructed right now?
I think we're going to be better at rushing the passer, but I think
Okay.
we might be a little bit worse at stopping the run. So kind of like a little bit of a seesaw going on,
Hmm.
but I think in the end, the Jets have to stop the run. Like that's to me just like kind of just being a fan of defensive football. Like if you can't stop the run, you're gonna be it's gonna be a long day, right? Because you could have the best pass rushers in the world, but if the opponents are getting 5, 6, 7 yards per carry, they don't have to throw the ball, right? So how many third and longs are they really going to be in if they're getting
Right.
4, 5, 6 yards per carry? So I think that's my main concern when I look at the defense. But I think from top to bottom, the defense will be the best in football.
I hope so, man. I really do. But that does seem like that's been their problem the last couple of years is stopping the run for like whatever reason. Like it wasn't terrible last year, but it wasn't great. So like that's something that I wanted to see them improve on. And like I agree with you 100% where it seems like they kind of took a step back in that department a little bit.
Mm.
But looking at our edge rushers, we lost Huff, but I'm happy. Like I was originally pissed off, as I'm sure you were. I'm sure a lot of Jet fans were that he left, just because he was like our homegrown, undrafted talent. Like like he was our guy that like we really haven't had. And then we go out, we get Will McDonald. We like pretty much draft his replacement, and he was a little underwhelming. I get it. He's a rookie. He's getting acclimated to the NFL speed, an NFL defense. Do you think that he's gonna have that second year jump similar to like a Jermaine Johnson?
I do.
Okay.
I like Will McDonald a lot coming out of Iowa State. I thought he was a first round pick. I felt like he was underrated throughout the process. I just didn't really felt I didn't really feel like it was the Jets were the best fit for him because of the amount of pass rushers that we had, and that the system that we ran was a lot different than Iowa State. And he was dominant at Iowa State, could play multiple positions there. So I didn't see that coming at all. But I think in turn, right, if Sala is willing to take and Joe Douglas, they're willing to take a guy where they're like, all right, we're absolutely fantastic at this position, but we're going to draft another one. You got to be sure that
Yeah.
you know what you're doing and that this guy's going to come in and dominate. And I think they saw enough through McDonald's first year there to where they can say, all right, if we let Huff walk, we have a nice replacement here in Will. But if they didn't like what they saw, or they felt like he, was struggling, they would have said, "All right, let's maybe try to work something out with Huff to keep him in the building."
Yeah, 100%. Do you see any player on that defensive line having double digit sacks?
Reddick,
Reddick?
Reddick for sure.
All right. Yeah, perfect, perfect. I hope so. I really want Quinnen to get back to that as well too, because like, like that 2022 season was a lot of fun. He definitely had his breakout season, and
Yeah,
it was fun. But like, I didn't really expect like every single year having double digit sacks, just because like he put himself on notice. People, players are going to notice him now. So I'm not really upset about that at all, but like I would like to kind of see him get back into that form a little bit. So getting kind of into the secondary a little bit here, we're gonna have a lot of fun this year with
hey Liam, can you hear me, man? Hey Liam, you got me? All right, so I don't know if I'm frozen or if Liam's frozen. I'm not sure. Um, Let me shoot him a real quick message.
I'm twice on the screen now.
Yeah.
I don't know what was
Cool.
up. Sorry about that. I don't know if you were able to hear me or not, like, during that.
No, no. So I think you were talking about the cornerback position.
Yes. With the cornerback position, do you see a situation where DJ Reed will be back next year? Or because personally, I don't see a situation where you can keep all three of these guys. And DJ Reed, he's going to be the oldest. Michael Carter, he seems to be like a player on the upswing. Sauce is Sauce. He's not going anywhere. Do you see a situation where all three of these guys are coming back, or do you think that this is the last year that we're seeing this trio together?
Unfortunately, I think it might be the last because you got to extend Michael Carter. No excuse not to. But with DJ Reed, it just kind of feels like the Jets are kind of just lagging behind on it. And I would re-sign him. I would give him a 2-year deal, two-year extension, and also at the same time lowering his cap hit for the season. Maybe could bring in some safety help or what have you. But if for whatever reason it seems like DJ Reed is like the next Bryce Huff to a degree.
Yeah, and I hope not because I really do like what DJ Reed brings to this. He played a pivotal role in developing Sauce. Like he was one of the main guys too. Like one of those players that took a rookie under his wing, kind of like what we're seeing with the offensive line, and helping a player get better each and every year. Where the only thing that like is missing from Sauce's game, if you want to be critical, is the interceptions. I think he definitely has to get those interceptions up. But I really like same thing here. Like I really don't want to lose DJ Reed, but I could definitely see them drafting somebody early on in the early rounds next year that is possibly going to be his replacement. Now, getting into the safety room a little bit, the room that everybody likes to talk about because Tony Adams, his ceiling was, I thought it was pretty high, but his floor was really low and he looked bad for a couple games. And then you have Chuck Clark coming off of an injury. Uh, and I've been saying for the last couple of years, whether it was Whitehead and Joyner or whatever have you, the safety room has kind of been a liability in a way, especially that 2022 season. Like I was like, oh my god, like it just seemed like each and every week, like one of the safeties was giving up a big play. And
Yeah.
Jordan Whitehead, that week one, he balled out last year, but then he kind of disappeared. I think he had another interception somewhere like midway through the season. I can't remember which game, but that seems like the best way to attack the Jets defense right now is just go deep. Like I like our linebackers. I like CJ, I like Quincy, I like Sherwood. I like that little trio right there. I like our defensive line. I like our corners. The biggest concern right now, and I might be underestimating him just because I don't know what Chuck Clark is. He was an Iron Man back with Baltimore. Comes to the Jets, and of course he gets hurt because it's Jets. Do you
Mm.
think like that's the best way for other teams to attack this defense? Or in like do you see them making like another move? Like they're gonna go out, get somebody like one of those big name guys and really shore up that defense to really become the number one defense in the NFL?
It seems like the Jets are fine rolling with Adams. They were fine with that a year ago. It doesn't really feel like there's a ton of urgency to go after Justin Simmons or Quandre Diggs or Eddie Jackson or any of these other safeties out there, Micah Hyde. It
Mhm.
seems like we're just content with it. So the one thing that we do know about Ulbrich and Saleh, they can identify talent and they can develop talent. So from that standpoint, I guess we have to trust them. I'm more concerned about stopping the run first because that's just such a common thing that you see in football over the deep ball. But I would say that's probably my second thing that I would be concerned about.
Yeah, I don't think that there's really any team going out there game planning to throw, 50-yard bombs,
Yeah.
multiple times a game. So like it does reassure me a little bit, and like, kind of gives me like a little bit of like relax, like we're gonna be okay. But and like I said, like I don't think our safety room is gonna be the worst in the NFL, but you're not gonna have elite players up and down this entire team. As cool as that would be, like there's gonna be just some guys and just some laborer guys. And like that's gonna be okay in my opinion, I think. Um,
Mm.
would it be cool? Like I said, yes, but like I just don't think it's realistic. And like as much as I would like a Quandre Diggs or Justin Simmons, I don't see it happening either. I feel like it would have been done by now, unless like maybe they just want to see what Chuck Clark is in training camp. Has he lost a step? He hasn't played in a full season. And then somebody like a Tony Adams, where like I said earlier, his ceiling was decent, but his floor was really low at times. So I don't see them making another move as that either.
Right,
But
right. And another thing too, I mean, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth too, where when you talked about you're not going to be an elite at every position.
right.
Take any good team in football. Uh, Ravens have their weaknesses, the Chiefs have their weaknesses, the Bills have their weaknesses. Um, no team is A plus, A plus, A plus, A plus down the list.
Exactly, yeah, so if that's what it's gonna be, I'm glad it's, like, the safety position, not, like, the defensive line or the offensive line like we've seen in years past, where I could live with it, so let's
Yep.
hope that getting back, Chuck Clark, I think that's gonna be a really big addition as well. Now, getting ready to wrap up here, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the schedule. It's a gauntlet early on, with the travel, the 3 games in 10 days, and then we're going to London. It's rough, and a lot of people are saying the NFL isn't giving the Jets any favors. Some people are saying that, the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers owe the NFL, which I think is complete ludicrous. But what are your thoughts on the schedule, especially early on in the season where it is rough?
To be honest with you, man, I really don't mind it all that much. I mean, I understand that the dates are pretty damn hectic, but like when I'm thinking about good teams in football, we just don't play that all that many of them.
Right.
And it's not to sound cocky or arrogant,
I
but
got you.
like just like who's a good team, right? Like just the good teams that you think of in the NFL, like who starts popping into your head? Philly, Detroit, Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati, the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh, right? Like there's a lot of teams out there that I feel like are really, really talented. And when you're looking at the Jets schedule, I really feel like the two best teams that we play all year are the 49ers, and that's in week 1. So we just kind of get that game over with. And let's just say worst case scenario, we lose. We're 0-1, so is half the league.
Right.
So it's not the end of the world. I would much rather play the Niners early on in week 1 as opposed to like going to San Fran in like week 14. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But 49ers and the Bills. I think Houston is also really interesting, but that's a short week at home. And both teams kind of, both teams came from the 49ers tree. So Saleh knows his defense inside and out. I think he can, him and Aaron Rodgers can exploit some things on D'Amico Ryan's side of it, and also maybe get CJ Stroud in a bit of some tough situations. Right, the Jets beat the Texans last year, I believe. So
Yep.
it's not crazy to say that, but I really like our chances this year. I'm thinking 11 wins.
Yeah, I am too. I'm kinda, like, right in that 11, 12 win range. Now just touching on the San Francisco 49ers real quick. See, I'm not necessarily super worried about them because just like Robert Saleh knows that Shanahan like that 49er style defense, which kinda gives us, like, a little bit of a advantage against D'Amico Ryans and the Texans, he also knows Kyle Shanahan's offense. And that's who he's going up against. So, like, if anybody can plan against Kyle Shanahan's offense, why not be his old prodigy, the guy that turned Robert Saleh into a head coach?
Mm. Yeah, it's a good point. But I guess maybe my counter would be the 49ers are not only just stacked at so many different positions, and they have a quarterback that can just manage the game in Brock Purdy, but the 49ers also have double-digit wins every single season. So
Mhm.
I think with San Francisco and the Rams specifically, and also the Chiefs, it's so much easier said than done to beat those teams. Like you really have to play like 4 quarters of good football you probably have to hope for a mistake or two on their part, like a dropped pass, or they screw up the snap, or a brutal interception or something. It's so tough with those three teams.
Yeah.
If they're like, all cylinders are firing, everybody's playing good football. They came with a great game plan and they're calling a good game. It's so tough to beat those teams. And of course, right, the caveat is health. I am looking at these teams like they are 100% healthy. Like if Trent Williams goes down or something like that before the game, then it's a different story. But
Right.
and I mean, I'm not saying that the Jets are definitely going to be 0-1, but again, just looking at the names on paper this season, or the teams on paper, the Titans and all these, teams that, Colts and the Cardinals and the Seahawks, there's a lot of teams out there that I just feel like that the Jets are just better than, and they should beat this season. But of course, they have to go out and execute.
Yeah, 100%. So, just I got your record prediction overall. You said 12 wins, which I'm right there too. What do you think our record within the AFC East is?
I'm going to say 4-2. I think we'll sweep New England.
Yep.
And then I think we'll split with both Miami and Buffalo. I know a lot of people are saying that the Bills are going to take steps back, but I just can't really. I just don't really see it. I feel like they lost veterans, but they lost players that were either older, slower, or just hurt all the time. So and also they brought back Joe Brady. They have two dynamic tight ends, and whenever you can have a top 3 quarterback and a top 5 defense, you're going to be a really good football team. Miami's the team that I feel like is going to actually regress.
Okay.
I feel like that's a team that really lost some impactful, underrated players. Like they had to release Xavier Howard. They moved on from Robert Hunt because he got the $100 million with Carolina. They lost Connor Williams on the offensive line. It's just Miami is the team that I'm personally watching. Like I still think they'll be good, but I'm thinking like 8-9 for the Dolphins.
Okay. Yeah, see, I'm kind of like reversed in a way. Like, yes, Miami did lose a lot of pieces, but I feel like Buffalo lost like more impactful players, such as like a Stephon Diggs, where like now, yes, like Miami, like they did lose a lot of players on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, but like their playmakers are just like their running back room, their wide receivers, like there's some studs over there too. But we also have the studs on defense to counter them, so it's going to be interesting. But like I agree, 4-2. I think that we are going to split with Buffalo and Miami, and just I don't think anybody's really counting New England into anything. So besides, hopefully just some of the worst years that they've ever seen, and like I don't even hate Drake May. But I have to now because I'm a Jets fan. Like I just want to drop a 50 burger on these guys. I really do. Just like I get it. It's not Brady and Belichick, but it's the organization. It's Robert Kraft. Just a little punch down to him. That's really what I want. So
yeah, it sucks, man. Because I do like Drake May. I'm with you. I was mad on draft night when they picked him, but yeah, unfortunately we got to root against him.
It is what it is. If you're not a Jet, I root against you. But like. I do root for some players like Zach. I'm rooting for Zach. I hope he turns it around. I hope he becomes somebody. Like there's some players out there I'm rooting for, but usually it's pretty much just ex-Jets. So I really could care less if I have to root against Drake May. But
right,
getting ready to wrap this up, Ian. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I've been trying to get you for so long, so I'm finally happy that we were able to do this, man. Like your content is just top notch.
dude. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. That really means a lot. We definitely have to do it again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm pretty sure everybody knows where to find you, but if for like whatever reason they don't, where's the best place to find you in your content?
Yeah, just run a YouTube channel, just called Jet Central, covering all things Jets.
Yep. And then social media, you on social media at all?
Yeah, so Twitter, it's Jets_Central, and then Instagram, I haven't really used it, dude. To be honest with you, I just not really a big IG person.
I'm the same way. It's like I have the Jets Afterburners like Instagram, but I don't know. It just seems like Jets Twitter was like where it's at. Like nobody's really ever talking about Jets Instagram. So like that, I'm kind of like the same way. But Ian, thank you so much for coming on, man. I have had a blast doing this with you. Like you said, got to do it again, man.
Sounds good, bro. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yep. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Jets Afterburners podcast. Little exclusive interview with just me and Ian here. So thank you guys all for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and we will talk Jets soon.